What's going on, Creator Factor fam? It's your host that loves you the most, Ozeal, and I want to welcome you to the Creator Factor podcast. This is the podcast. This is the place, the space, the number one spot for content creators who are looking to elevate, transform the Creator Factor, where they can turn their passion into a profession and create creator-led businesses and build brands online. I know that's a mouthful, but we're still kind of tweaking it a little bit. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and rock with that for today's episode. If this is your first time tuning in to today's episode, welcome. Welcome to, again, the Creator Factor. I'm excited to have you here. And of course, if you are a loyal follower, have been checking out the podcast since the jump, I appreciate you listening to the podcast, subscribing on YouTube, which, by the way, a little shameless plug, I decided to take my Creator Factor channel and take everything into my personal brand channel, which is at Ozeal. I just created a playlist and I'm like, you know what? This is the year of simplicity. I want to streamline as much as possible. Sometimes I feel like, and especially for my multi-passionate creators out there, you know what I'm talking about, where you have like a domain for every single idea that you have, and you have like all these websites, sub websites, channels, and it's all over the place. So my focus is to be able to streamline it. So that's what I did. I decided to put pause on the Creator Factor podcast channel, and then you can go and check out the official podcast on my at Ozeal on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe because there's a ton of content on there already, centered around podcast branding, starting a podcast, a lot of really good, valuable content out there. So I highly encourage you to check out that channel, subscribe, hit the notification button. I'm going to be doing some live streams and doing some other things. As a matter of fact, speaking of live streams, I was going to do a live stream for this episode, and then I had some tech issues, and then it just got a little too complicated. I'm like, you know what? Let's simplicity, Ozeal. Let's go ahead and record this podcast as we have been doing, and keep it simple and keep it moving and grooving. All right. So that's what we're doing here. So also, before we kick off the show, I just want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by our official sponsor, the Creator Factor newsletter. Yeah, that's right. We're going to do another shameless plug here. Head over to creatorfactor.net, subscribe to the newsletter. This is something that I'm going to be investing more time and energy into. Now, I already have a newsletter for a different platform, but for this particular platform for creators, head over to Creator Factor and you'll have a freebie, and you'll know what I'm talking about because I'm going to talk a little bit about that in just a few. But you'll get a free PDF. I promise I won't spam you. I know you get a ton of email. I'm not trying to be that guy who sends you a ton of emails. It's going to be just a resource guide. I want to give you guys resources, some ideas, and kind of share a little bit about my journey on the newsletter. So head over to creatorfactor.net, subscribe. If you have any issues subscribing, shoot me an email at Ozeal at Ozeal Creator. I'm sorry, Ozeal at creatorfactor.net, and let me know if you have any issues. Okay. So subscribe to that. And of course, the show is also sponsored by StreamYard. Let me go ahead and put this on the screen. StreamYard, and we'll make sure that we link that down below. That's what I'm using for recording this podcast episode and for future live streams. StreamYard is an amazing tool for content creators who are looking to, once again, simplify is the word. Okay, to simplify their recording process, whether it's podcasting, live streaming, recording this on video. There's a lot of really cool features that I'm really digging on StreamYard. I've always been a big fan of StreamYard. So if you're a content creator, let me know down below in the comment section or email me. Let me know if you ever used StreamYard. It's a great tool. I highly recommend you check it out. All right. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into today's episode. So, ladies and gents, today I'm going to be sharing with you 5 tips for content creators building a brand. Now, this is some questions that I have that I'm going to share with you. That is, when you subscribe to the newsletter, you'll get 13 questions that every content creator should ask themselves before building a brand. I think it's going to be very helpful, especially if you're in an early stage content creator, or even like for creators that already have skin in the game. I think it's always good to revisit these questions because I feel like our beliefs are always evolving, or they are evolving. And I think we need to make sure that we align it with our business goals. And I feel like just checking in every now and then. I feel like quarterly, just to make sure that you're aligned, you're focused. If you're evolving, then obviously your goals and objectives change, right, as you evolve. So, but these questions are always going to be a good check in, great way to audit yourself as you grow this creator business brand. Okay. So I'm going to share with you 5 tips and 5 questions you should ask yourself in creating a creator brand. Yeah. All right. So let's get right to it. So, number one, and I'm going to go off script here. So, most of my content here is a bit off script. So, if I go all over the place, you've been warned. Okay, I'm not going to apologize because it's how my brain works, but you've been warned. So make sure, get ready. All right. And of course, if I go too far in, you can hit me in the comment section. Be like, Ozeal, you went way off on the deep end, man. Bring it back. Okay. All right. So number one, this is a question that you should ask yourself when you're creating a brand, a creator brand online. And this is actually inspired by a book called Zag. And if you have not read this book, this is kind of like my Bible for branding. This is my secret weapon. And I'm a big fan of this author. His name is Marty Neumeier. And I'm going to go ahead and show it on the screen. And of course, you can head over to the YouTube channel and check it out. I'm holding up the book. This book is called Zag. All right. The number one strategy of high performance brands. Highly recommend you check it out. And in this book, Marty talks about your only statement. Okay. So creating your only statement. So the question takes you on a deep dive, right? To the heart of your creator brand. And answering this question would definitely help you define what makes you distinctive and what makes you different. Because I do believe that it's not about being better, it's about being different, especially now in this day and age where it's so noisy and competitive, where everybody's vying for attention. So I believe that the equalizer, the thing that really makes you stand out, the zag, right, is finding and defining your only statement. So what do I mean by that? So let me share with you the creator factors, this podcast, the only statement for this podcast. And again, I'm going to probably refine things because, as you can hear, even in the intro, there's a few things that I still got to tweak, right? But I'm not allowing that to stop the evolution of this podcast. And one of the questions that I ask, or actually the only statement that I've created in the beginning, and this is actually when I first started this podcast. And let me read this to you just to kind of give you an example. All right. So the creator factor is the only podcast that builds a sense of community and relatability for like-minded creators who want to feel connected and heard. We're ditching the expert and influence, jibber jabber, and we're being and we're documenting the creator's journey. Okay. So that is the only statement. So there's a lot of creator podcasts out there, really good ones too. I'm a big fan of. And a lot of them could get very, scientific, very technical. Some of them focus on one topic more than the others. It's just a different vibe, right? And you can tell from the host, it's just a completely different vibe. And that's the beautiful thing about podcasts is that finding your voice, finding what makes you different is infusing your style, your lingo, the way you speak, your flow, your vibe. That's also part of your zag. But when it comes to creator factor, I do believe that this podcast stands out in the fact that we're going to be very community centric. And how we're going to do this is that I'm going to be doing a lot more live streams. Moving forward, we're going to be doing creator to creator. We're going to be interviewing and having conversations with content creators from all walks. And that is the thing that I feel makes this podcast stand out amongst all the other podcasts. So the way you want to develop this is, and I'll make sure that I leave a link to this. Let me share with you some examples. So there is a band. I don't know if you ever heard of the White Stripes. Some of you may or may not heard. It's a rock band. Um, really great band, by the way. And this is the only statement they have, right? And this is in the book Zag by Marty Neumeyer. The White Stripes, they're the only pop music duo that records crude yet hip rock songs for young urbanites in the US and other first world countries who long for authentic music in the era of overproduced Me Too music. All right. Harley Davidson, the only motorcycle manufacturer that makes big, loud motorcycles for macho guys and macho wannabes, mostly in the United States, who want to join a gang of cowboys in an era of decreasing personal freedom. So that could be their only statement. And the way you get to this is by asking yourself, what is your only, the thing that makes you distinctive, right? How is it conveyed, right? So for the White Stripes, it records crude yet hip hop rock songs. That's what makes them different. That's how they do it. Who is it for, right? So what, how, who? It's for young urbanites. So for the creator factor, this podcast is for for early stage content creators. Where, right, in the US and other first world countries. Why? This is people who long for being authentic, people who want and are yearning for that transformation, for that inspiration, right? In my case, why is these are individuals that are looking to turn their passion into a profession. They're trying to go pro when it comes to their content creation, and then win in an era of overproduced Me Too music, right? And then for Harley Davidson, it was in an era of decreasing personal freedom. For Creator Factor, it could be in an era of overproduced, non-community centric platforms, right? And that's how I incorporate like live stream. It's not just here's the content, here's the information, but it's more like I'm going to give you that too, but we're also going to give you a community centric vibe through the live streams and other forms of content that we're going to put out. So, what, how, who, where, why, and when. And I'll put these examples in the show notes. And I highly recommend that you do this exercise to dial in your only statement, because I think that this will help you. I believe it will help you uh, define and create this distinctive brand right out the gate. So this is very important, especially when you're starting a brand as a content creator, is defining your only statement. All right. So number two, the second thing you need to do and ask yourself is, who is your audience and what do they aspire to be? Now, I know that's two questions. So bear with me. Look, every musician, every business, every content creator has a target audience. For us multi-passionate, multi-potentialites, we sometimes have a few avatars. And I do feel like I know in the business world there was talks of like defining your avatar. But I do feel like now with this content creation that's evolving, I think it's helpful to be able to create multiple avatars. So a content creator that can really dig into content, this creator factor podcast, are definitely early stage content creators. Those are my people. This is really the core audience for this podcast. But I'm also going to be attracting content creators that are like in the mid stage. They're already have the wheels going. They're building the business and they're just simply looking for more resources, more information that can help them with their transformation, right? To help them elevate their creator factor. So even though my core audience are early stage content creators, I'm still going to appeal to intermediate, even professional content creators, maybe intermediate, right? Because they're trying to get to that professional level. So those are my people. So, and what do they aspire to be? Answer that question for your platform. Okay. Answer that question. Are they, you are the compass for their journey, and you're going to take them through a journey that's going to help them get into a different level. So in my space, I want them to get in, even I'm documenting this journey, right? To be able to take this podcast into a whole, the aspiration is to really go high level with this, right? Maybe have an in studio podcast, do recordings, do live shows, etc. So I challenge you to ask yourself, what does your audience aspire to be? What is the thing that they want to accomplish? Because that positions your podcast in a more effective way to create that transformation for them, meaning that you become that number one resource guide for them to transform, right? You want to get them to point A to point B and C and D and onward. So asking yourself who your audience is, I think it's super important. I think a lot of content creators skip this. And I always say, try to dial in your brand as much as you can. If it comes to a point where you just don't know, and it's going to hinder, and it's going to be the decision between starting and then trying to dial in your brand, I would rather you start, right? Because you'll figure that out as well as you evolve. But if you can, do take some time early on to define who your audience is and their aspirations. Like, really know what they're trying to get to. If it's just strictly entertainment, then it's just entertaining. But for a lot of content creators, especially in my space and what we're trying to do, what I'm trying to do here as a teacher, is we're kind of creator educators, right? We're teaching about building a brand through content marketing, building a brand online, building a business. Those are all some of the pillars that, I teach with the creator factor. That's what the aspiration for my audience. So, who is your audience and what do they aspire to be? Those are two powerful questions you should ask yourself in building a brand. The third, did I say third? It's kind of weird. The third thing, enunciate, Ozeal. Let me take a sip of tea here. Here we go. We're vibing, y'all. We're vibing here. Is define your core values as a content creator. Now, this question gives you and your audience an understanding of what you stand for. Establishing your core values will help distinguish you on a deeper level, and it'll help attract the right audience for your brand, your platform, for your podcast, for your YouTube channel. Important that you do that. Okay. So, for example, my values, I'll share them with you. It's family, freedom, diversity, community, innovation, and leadership. All those are my core values. I plant my flag on all of those, and that's what I strongly believe in. And knowing this, you'll be able to hear a little bit of all of it through my podcast. And as you follow me on this journey, is that I care about all of that. And some people will say, hey, I also believe in diversity. I believe in community. I also believe in leadership and entrepreneurship. That's my guy. That's the podcast that I want to follow. So I challenge you to ask and really define your core values, because that is important in attracting your right audience. Harley Davidson has their core values. The White Stripes, Apple has their core values, right? Innovation, design, there's, if you look at all the impactful brands, influential brands out there, they all have defined values. So define your values. The fourth thing is, what lights you up? Right? What's the thing that you enjoy the most? Is this something that can help others? Is this, building a platform as a creator? Excuse me. Is it because I believe that you have to be passionate about the topic, right? I mean, you should at least know the subject, or at least have an understanding of what your audience pain points are. We saw, like, in the era of this kind of entrepreneurial online world, where a lot of people were trying to teach, like you're seeing it now with AI. Like, I don't know how many AI experts are coming out. And some of them are legit that are really experimenting. Some of them are getting into the trenches. They're learning and they're just sharing and documenting. And you can see that they've been studying AI. And then you have people that are just like podcast experts one day, and then now they're like AI experts. It's crazy. But it's happening now. And I'm not a big fan of just faking the funk. Like, you got to be passionate because you're not going to fool the people around you. The thing about online is that everything is documented. I mean, you can Google things and you can find out about a certain creator if you really wanted to. And I believe that if you have an experience doing something that you're passionate about, not only is that going to be conveyed behind the mic in front of a camera, but if you're teaching it, people are not going to pay you if you just started podcasting a month ago. Like, you just can't be a leader, an expert, expert leader, overnight. You really got to make sure that you hone in your craft and understand, respect, and practice what you preach. But what lights you up? Like, what is the thing that excites you the most? And I think those are the things that's been the compass. I mean, that's been the compass for my journey, is really getting into what lights me up. What am I passionate about? And can I help others do this thing? So for my compass, like, my passion is podcasting. I love podcasting. I've been in the space for close to a decade now. Even prior to that, over a decade. And I'm very passionate by helping content creators, leaders, message makers amplify their voice, their message through podcasting. And that's what I'm proud of. And that's what I've been doing for the last few years. And you can check my resume. I've been doing this. So you got to be passionate. You just can't fake the funk and act like you're an expert. So you got to make sure that it lights you up. And that's how you can kind of build a really trustworthy brand online. All right. Lastly, this is something that I want to definitely point out here, because I have a lot of coaching clients that want to be everywhere to everyone. And I'm here to let you know that you have to decide on one platform. Like, what's the platform that resonates most with your audience? And you have options, right? You can start a blog, you can start a podcast, a video podcast, a YouTube channel. Figure out a way to find the platform that resonates with your audience. Pick one platform, dominate it, stay consistent, work on your craft, and then you can expand to other platforms. Even doing this video podcast, or the video portion of this podcast, I was a bit hesitant in the beginning because podcasts traditionally is audio only, and I know podcasting has evolved. But now there's a great opportunity for my YouTube audience to be able to catch the same message, for me to connect with them on a personal level, and to be able to touch on that ecosystem. And that's what I plan on doing, is creating this value for my YouTube audience as well. And I figured out a way to simplify it using StreamYard. So we're doing it that way. So, but pick a platform. And there's some creators that, like, I had one time a creator who was really thought that he wanted to start a podcast. And come to find out, I just made a decision. I was like, look, dude, this is not a podcast, it's a YouTube channel. And it was all about, like, culinary and showing people his dishes. And I'm like, nah, people don't want to hear this type of content. People want, if it's educational or maybe a roundtable talk or something, it's a little different, right? But not for this particular subject. And I said, just start a YouTube channel. So figure out what channel resonates with your audience, pick one platform, build it up, expand, and go from there. But just pick one and just double down on it. Okay. Focus on that. And I think that is it. Yeah. Those are the top 5 questions. Yeah. We went through them pretty quickly, I feel. So create your only statement. Number 1, define your audience and aspirations. Number 2, define your core values. Number 3, figure out what lights you up. Number 4, and then finally, pick one platform and dominate it. So those are the 5 questions, my fellow creators, that you should ask yourself in building a brand online. So hopefully that provided some value. I am here if you need help. I am a coach, a creator coach, a podcast coach. If you need help with your creator journey, feel free to reach out, Ozeal at ozeal.net. If that email doesn't work, you can email me at ozealmedia11 at gmail.com. I do have some coaching slots available, and let's go ahead and have a conversation and see how I can help you in your creator journey. And I think part of it is mindset, building up the confidence, defining your brand, knowing how to attract your audience. And then we can talk about marketing, right? Your platform. And then we can talk about monetization, because I know content creators, we're here because we're trying to run a creator led business, and monetizing your message is part of the equation. But I'm a coach, the only statement, where I'm not going to preach you. I'm not going to sell you on the fact that, oh, we need to monetize your message right out the gate. Let's work on your brand. Let's attract the audience, and then let's market and monetize. That's in that order. Let's do that. And I can help you do that. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out. And I really do appreciate all of the love that we've been getting on the podcast. I know this past few episodes have been solo shows. We are going to be doing some more interviews. I'm really excited for the next few episodes with some interviews. But in the meantime, I'm having fun and I'm experimenting. Like, this is part of the journey as this podcast evolves. Is I'm going to be doing some, live streams, as I mentioned. I'm going to be doing some solo shows, and I'm going to be doing some interviews, and I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to mix it up and have fun and figure out what dials in for you. Like, what do you like the most? And let me know. Let me know in the comment section down below on YouTube, or you can email me. Like, what do you think of these solo shows? Are you enjoying it? Do you want more of this? Do you say, hey, Ozeal, I really like the interviews, man. Bring back the interviews. Um, Listen, this podcast is not mine. I'm hosting it, but this is all about community. So as long as I'm providing value and I'm making it worth your time, um, I'm doing my job. So thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you, and make sure you subscribe and check out the newsletter. And I look forward to catching you on the next episode. Until next time, peace and one love.